G. Governor DeSantis replaces elected RCID board members with CFTOD political appointees who execute the retribution campaign and declare void Disney's land use contracts. 127. On February 27, 2023, the date Governor DeSantis signed House Bill 9B into law, and 3 weeks after the contracts were executed following public notice and hearing, Governor DeSantis announced the names of 5 individuals he had selected to replace the elected members of the board. 128. When Governor DeSantis addressed what he was looking for with this board, he described, with a thinly veiled euphemism, staffing the board with people who would censor Disney's speech and discipline the company. As Governor DeSantis put it, referring to Disney, quote, "When you lose your way, you've got to have people that are going to tell you the truth, so we hope they can get back on," end quote. 129. Governor DeSantis also posited that the new board could stop Disney from, quote, "trying to inject woke ideology into children." As Governor DeSantis put it, "I think all these board members very much would like to see the type of entertainment that all families can appreciate." 130. The new members of the board sat for their first meeting on March 8, 2023. 131. At that meeting, one board member suggested that 2 cities comprising Disney's property, Bay Lake and Lake Buena Vista, should be dissolved, despite the fact that CFTOD board has no authority or mandate to dissolve the cities. Another hinted at plans to make major changes but did not go into detail. The board also approved hiring the same legal counsel that had advised Governor DeSantis' office on House Bill 9B. 132. Following the meeting, Disney released the following statement, holding on to hope that, despite the board's origins and Governor DeSantis' directives, the board might be willing to forgo its mandate to punish Disney and focus instead on the economic welfare of the district. The Reedy Creek Improvement District created and maintained the highest standards for the infrastructure of Walt Disney World. We are hopeful the new Central Florida Tourism Oversight District will continue this excellent work, and the new board will share our commitment to helping the local economy continue to flourish and support the ongoing growth of the resort and Florida's tourism industry. 133. Unfortunately, CFTOD has embraced the governor's express mission to punish Disney for expressing disfavored viewpoints. 134. On March 29, 2023, CFTOD gathered for its second meeting. At that meeting, CFTOD members claimed that they had just discovered the contracts, which had been publicized in the press, read out at board meetings, and recorded in county records almost 2 months earlier. The CFTOD's special counsel suggested that RCID should hire firms with a deeper bench going forward. The next CFTOD meeting was scheduled for April 19th. 135. On the evening of March 29th, one board member denounced the arrogance of Disney, warning that the company has been ignoring parents and allowing radicals to sexualize our children, and was now ignoring Florida taxpayers by sneaking in a last-minute sweetheart development agreement. Equating Disney's exercise of its rights under Florida law to enter long-term development agreements with Disney's exercise of its rights to speak on public issues, the same board member, which is Bridget Ziegler, declared, Disney has once again overplayed their hand in Florida. We won't stand for this, and we won't back down. 136. A public narrative about these contracts quickly formed around the idea that Governor DeSantis was caught off guard and had the rug pulled from under him. 137. Governor DeSantis' allies, including a state representative and another CFTOD board member, in turn accused Disney of trying to pass an 11th hour deal in the middle of the night and sneaking in the contracts. Echoing their calls, Governor DeSantis himself subsequently claimed that the contracts were uncovered and last minute. 138. None of this was true. As explained, these contracts followed public notice, in the Orlando Sentinel no less, and public hearings. But despite the facts, the political story was set, and the retaliation only got worse. 139. On April 3rd, Governor DeSantis lashed out at Disney by announcing the launch of a wide-ranging civil and criminal investigation. Ostensibly triggered by the state's belated discovery of the contracts, Governor DeSantis directed his chief inspector, General Melinda Miguel, to probe any financial gain or benefit derived by Walt Disney World as a result of RCID's actions and RCID's justifications for such actions. All RCID board, employee, or agent communications related to RCID's actions, including those with Walt Disney World employees and agents, and several other topics, Governor DeSantis instructed Chief Inspector General Miguel to refer any legal or ethical violations to the appropriate authorities. 140. 3 days later, on April 6th, Governor DeSantis stated at a public event that Disney had tried to pull a fast one. He added, "They are not superior to the people of Florida, so come hell or high water, we're going to make sure that policy of Florida carries the day. And so they can keep trying to do things, but ultimately we're going to win on every single issue involving Disney, I can tell you that. The story's not over yet. Buckle up, there's going to be more coming down the pike." 141. In the question and answer session that followed, Governor DeSantis said that Disney is acting like somehow they pulled one over on the state and that now Disney has reopened this issue. We're not just going to void the development they tried to do. We're going to look at things like taxes on the hotels. We're going to look at things like tolls on the roads. We're going to look at things like developing some of the property that the district owns. 142. On April 7th, addressing the contracts, Governor DeSantis stated at a press conference, "Now that this has been reopened, all options are on the table. We need to make sure that people understand whether you're an individual or you're a corporation, you don't get to play by your own rules. I think Disney has always viewed itself as being exempt from that constitutional process. Well, those days are over here in the state of Florida." Emphasizing his control over the legislature, he continued, "There will be additional legislative actions taken in Tallahassee that will nullify what they tried to do at the 11th hour and then potentially, arm the board with the ability to make sure that this is run appropriately." 143. On April 13th, Governor DeSantis stated at a public event, "They're fighting us on this. The media is acting like Disney is getting out from under. No, it's going to happen. We'll have news on that next week, so stay tuned. There will be round 2 in terms of those fireworks," he added. "I don't care if Disney doesn't like it, they can take a hike." 144. Governor DeSantis conveyed his total control over the CFTOD board. Speaking on an Orlando radio program on April 17th, Governor DeSantis warned that the CFTOD board would be meeting a few days later to make sure Disney is held accountable. 145. On April 17th, Governor DeSantis convened a press conference to discuss next steps in the campaign against Disney. The steps included legislation and the legislative declaration by CFTOD. He described the legislation as a bill that would make sure the people understand that you don't get to put your company over the will of the people in Florida. He added that efforts were underway to give the state new authority to override safety inspections at Walt Disney World, as well as to regulate Disney's monorail transportation systems. Describing what his administration would do with land taken from Disney's control, he mused, "People are like, what should we do with this land? People have said, maybe create a state park, maybe try to do more amusement parks. Someone even said, maybe you need another state prison. Who knows? I just think that the possibilities are endless." Governor DeSantis warned, "I look forward to the additional actions that the State Control Board will implement in the upcoming days." 147. Representative Carolina Amnesty took the podium after Governor DeSantis concluded his remarks. She reiterated the connection between the threatened board actions and Disney's protected speech. "Let it be known across this great nation that here in the free state of Florida, it is we the people, not woke corporations." Representative Amnesty continued, "We all love Disney. However, you cannot indoctrinate our children. Instead, they have turned Disney into this corporate PR arm of a small group of extremists who want to indoctrinate our children with radical gender ideologies that have no basis in science, common sense, or basic human decency." In conclusion, Representative Amnesty warned, "As our great governor has said, Florida is a place where woke goes to die." 148. Senator Blase Angolia, I probably said that wrong, spoke next. He threatened, "I know this governor and I know this governor well, so I have a couple words for Disney. You are not going to win this fight. This governor will." 149. At the conclusion of the press conference, Governor DeSantis stated, "Stay tuned, we've got more coming up." 150. The governor's office issued a press release later that day announcing Disney's corporate kingdom is over and the agreements will be nullified by new legislation that I intend to execute. I look forward to the additional actions that the State Control Board will implement in the upcoming days. 151. The CFTOD met for its third meeting on April 19th. 152. At the meeting, CFTOD's outside counsel attacked Disney's exercise of development contract rights and proclaimed that Disney's efforts are illegal and they will not stand, even though he acknowledged that it is well established under Florida law that a development agreement and a restrictive covenant are contracts and are governed by the law of contract. CFTOD's counsel also admitted that Disney did publish notice in the newspaper before entering into the development agreement. 153. When the CFTOD chair asked CFTOD's counsel what action he recommends that the board take, the board's special counsel recommended that the board move to direct counsel to prepare a resolution for consideration at the board's April 26 meeting that would, 1, declare the contracts void ab initio, 2, make findings of fact in support thereof, and 3, direct action as need to assert CFTOD's positions on these issues. A motion in support of this action passed with unanimous support. 154. The same day, the board published the agenda for the April 26 meeting. The agenda included a single item under new business labeled Approval of Legislative Findings Regarding and Declare the Development Agreement and Declaration of Restrictive Covenants entered into by Reedy Creek Improvement District and Walt Disney Parks and Resorts U.S. void ab initio, and direction to litigation counsel regarding the same. 155. On April 24th, CFTOD published proposed legislative findings for its predetermined voiding of the contracts. The purported findings assert a scattershot collection of alleged contract infirmities and then declare the contracts to be void and unenforceable. 156. Going further, the legislative findings and declaration attack the comprehensive plan, even though the state itself found the plan in compliance with Florida law months ago. The legislative findings and declaration also target land development regulation amendments that were recently adopted. CFTOD gave no prior notice of its intent to void the comprehensive plan or the regulation amendments. The purpose and effect of this exercise of power is the same as the legislation and executive activity that has been deployed for over a year to punish Disney for expressing a certain view. 158. On April 26, just as CFTOD previewed it would do the week before, the CFTOD board unanimously approved the legislative findings and declaration, declaring that the contracts were void and unenforceable. 159. For extra measure, the Florida legislature has recently advanced legislation attacking the contracts, prohibiting their enforcement unless the CFTOD board were to readopt them. See House Bill 439, 2023, and Senate Bill 1604, 2023. Underscoring the state's coordinated efforts, CFTOD's legislative findings and declaration conclude, the board has no desire to readopt or ratify the contracts. Indeed, the legislature does not seem intent on moderating its retaliatory campaign anytime soon. Recently proposed legislation would require oversight of monorail and other fixed guideway transportation systems located within an independent special district created by local act, which have been boundaries within two contiguous cities. A transparent attack on Disney and Disney alone. Senate Bill 1250, 2023. The legislation would even give the state authority to shut down systems during inspection. 160. Having exhausted all other options, Disney is left with no choice but to bring this complaint asking the court to stop the state of Florida from weaponizing the power of the government to punish private businesses.